Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Doug Show. It's Doug Cunnington here, and in this episode, I'm going to go over some common questions that people have about being audited by the Amazon Associate Program. And I recently went through that process. In fact, I wrote a blog post about the whole ordeal, which actually turned out to be really good, I believe, based on the feedback that I have received. And it's also pretty long. And I worked pretty hard on it, and I hope it'll be a continuously improving blog post and document out there as a resource for people. So if you are unfamiliar with being audited by Amazon, which a lot of people are, basically it seems to be like some sort of random spot check. So I'm not going to go over the whole entire ordeal at this point, but instead just answer those really common questions. And by the way, I actually sent an email out before I wrote the blog post and just asked the audience, asked you, what sort of questions you have. And I got a overwhelming number of responses. So it took me a little while to go through them. A lot of them were very common, which is good because I could then understand what areas people are concerned about, what areas people just want to know more information versus maybe the more obscure questions that, sometimes are really insightful and good, and they bring up some point that I didn't think of and that other people didn't think of. But it is good to see it's kind of like upvoting, right? So once I saw there were 18 questions that were all the same one, I know that's a pretty important topic to cover. So again, if you're unfamiliar with what can happen, basically Amazon has a set of rules, and an operating agreement is what it's called. And I think there are probably a couple other pieces which are related. Maybe they're linked from the operating agreement for associates, and you have to follow all the rules. Now there's who knows how many thousands of associates out there, but there's no automatic systematic check that happens. People literally go out and look at your site and review it. So you can technically, right, other associates are out there violating the rules. Potentially, one of the common ones is listing the price in a hard-coded way, not pulled from the advertising API. So the point is, basically, you can see that people are violating the terms, but Amazon doesn't know automatically. There's no algorithmic way. There's no bots out there checking things or anything like that. So what happens is you receive an email with, typically, this is what the subject would say. It says, action required - your Amazon.com associates account. And then the first line says, your associate's account is at risk of closure. And I'm not going to read out the whole email here, but basically they say why, right? So they tell you this. It says, as a part of our ongoing monitoring of the Amazon Associates Program, we are reviewing your account. To complete our review, we need you to provide information about how you're referring customers to the Amazon site. And then they tell you that you need to send in 8 pieces of information over the next 5 or within the next 5 business days so that they can review your site and just investigate how you're referring visitors to Amazon. So again, I'm not going to go through the whole thing here. We're just going to jump sort of to the questions, and potentially I will do a longer narrative form of this story, because I actually did a lot of work over those few days, the 5 days that I had to spare. So the number one question, and you're probably thinking right now what it may be. You probably already know it. It is, how are you selected to be audited? And they don't tell you, all right? There's no real information on how you are selected or how accounts are selected. Some people speculate. Maybe it's the amount of revenue. Maybe it's the amount of traffic. Maybe it's how long you've been in the program or something like that. A lot of times people feel like maybe it is around how much revenue you make. And in my opinion, it seems to be 100% random. It looks to be like just spot checks, random spot checks, seems to be very few and far between as well. So I've heard of people having their accounts reviewed, but to my knowledge, when I reached out to my network of like mastermind partners and just folks that I could ping on Skype and they'll get back to me in, an hour or something, they had not been audited either. And in fact, they didn't know anyone personally that had been audited. At least they didn't mention it to me at the time. So they've been in the program for 5, 6, 7 years or more, around the same time frame as me. So when you put it all together, I mean, you're looking at roughly maybe 18 to 20 years of time in the program across the people that I talked to, and no one had been audited or personally knew anyone who had been audited. So again, it appears to be 100% random, and there's no like way to figure out if you're going to get audited. So like I said, the folks that I talked to were in the program for a few years, and I had been too, and we've made, varying amounts of money over time. Nothing seemed to trigger it. Nothing unusual happened. So the other question is about what you need to provide. So in the email, it's fairly short. It's to the point. There are 8 main pieces of information that they ask for. And you don't really have to provide like very much of a narrative or too many details. So I'll mention the 8 right here, but I'm not going to go too in depth. If you are interested in seeing like what I actually submitted, I generalized the templates that I use, or I generalized the information in the format, and I turned them into templates, which you could download. So if you just go to ninjasiteproject.com, one of the recent blog posts, if you don't see it, it's like surviving an Amazon audit. You should be able to search for it and find it pretty easily. So number 1, they do ask for the list of sites where you have your special links, which are affiliate links or banner ads. So, and the banner ads are like native ads that Amazon provides for you. So that's pretty straightforward. That should be the list of sites that you have in your Amazon associate account anyway. Number 2, they ask you about any advertising services that you are using. So if you're running ads like AdWords or Facebook ads or some other kind of ad, they want to know about what services you are using. Next, number 3, they want links to screenshots of your site's analytics to show the traffic and its sources. So I just took screenshots of Google Analytics and put them in a Google folder. Number 4, they ask for keywords that you are using to drive referrals. So I'm assuming that they're actually asking about any ads that you may be running and what keywords you're targeting through your ads. However, I sent them a list, a sample, not all the keywords that I happened to be targeting, but I sent them a sample of several hundred keywords that I am targeting across my sites. Number 5, they ask for plugins or browser add-ons. So I listed each one of the plugins that I use on every single site. Of course, most of them are not relevant to Amazon in any capacity or in any way. So I noted specifically, hey, these are Amazon associate related plugins, or these are not. So there's only like 1 or 2 plugins that I use that are at all related with Amazon. So I assume that's probably the case for most people as well. Number 6, they ask for live links to your site. So I just put the, hyperlinked URL for each one of the sites that was relevant, right? So basically from number 1, I just made links to those. Now, I will mention that someone commented on the blog post and said, well, I think that means all the backlinks to your site. I don't think so. Otherwise, they maybe would have phrased it differently. I don't think that Amazon cares too much about the SEO side. But, I don't know. They didn't really say what they were looking for. So I imagine a live link to a site means a link that they could click on to go look at your site. Number 7, this one is phrased in an unusual way, but I'll read it just verbatim. A sequence of links that allows us to duplicate the clicks the majority of your customers make to get to the Amazon site via your special links. Special links or affiliate links. So in this case, I interpreted that, they use the word sequence, but I don't believe that sequence is really the right word selection here. If we're gonna be really specific, I don't think that is really what they're asking for. But I basically sent them links to pages where I have affiliate links for each one of my sites, and that actually includes YouTube as well. So I have a couple of videos on YouTube with affiliate links in there, and I sent links for examples for each one of the sites that I listed. So that they could see how a visitor to the site can click one of the links and end up on Amazon. So again, I didn't send a full list of all of my, all my content, all my URLs. I just took a sample and sent, if I just had to guess, I think I probably sent either between like 40 and, 75% of the links and URLs that were available per site. So I don't think they necessarily want to have every single one. I just gave them enough to chew on so that they can get a good handle. Again, if I was auditing someone's site, which I do from time to time, I don't look at every single piece of content, right? That is like too much. You can kind of spot check and get an idea through spot checking whether or not someone is adhering to the rules or that sort of thing. And that's what they're looking for. So my assumption is, they spot check the associate accounts once they are looking and auditing at auditing someone's site, they are probably spot checking within the site as well. And finally, number 8, any other information that would be relevant to confirm your compliance with the operating agreement. So those are the 8 pieces. It's fairly straightforward. It doesn't mean it's easy to put that together. So if you have, several sites out there, it can take you a little while to put together this information. You have to go and snag analytics. You have to put it together in a format that is easy for someone to consume. And imagine this, right? So you're being audited. You don't want to make any of the information that you're sending to the auditor confusing or hard to use in any way. So I sort of, I put myself in their shoes. I wanted to give them the information that they were looking for. I didn't want to add a bunch of extraneous information that they weren't asking for or more details than what they were asking for. I just wanted to make it easy for them to go look at my sites and see compliance, right? So I just wanted them to see that I'm following the rules. Moving on, another common question is, who can I ask if I have questions? So luckily, the Amazon Associate Program has several ways for them or for you to contact them. And they actually have pretty good availability. So every single day they have, I think you can call in or send them an email. And I believe the call-in number is open from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific time in the US. So, 7 days a week, you can get a hold of them for many hours of the day. And the hard part, right? The hard part is the team that is the customer service team is different than the team doing the audit. So it was a little bit difficult to get exact answers for certain questions. So the people were very helpful and they were super polite. But if I asked about, just for example, number 7 that I mentioned earlier, a sequence of links that allows you to duplicate the clicks from the customers and so on, they may not be able to tell you, depending on who you talk to, they may not be able to tell you like the exact answer that the auditors are looking for. So, and this is what I arrived at as I was going through this process. I realized, well, if I have these questions and I talk about this stuff all the time, I'm pretty sure other people have similar questions, especially if they're not in a position like me, where I hear from Amazon associates every single day, multiple times a day, who are just like you, listen to the podcast, maybe read the blog, maybe watch YouTube videos. So I hear those sort of questions all the time. And so I imagine that a lot of people wouldn't know exactly what to do. So that's kind of why I documented it. I hope in a very thorough way. And that's why I'm doing this Q&A session right now. By the way, if you have questions and you didn't ask them before, or if you want clarifications or something like that, you could shoot me an email at feedback at doug.show. So feedback at doug.show, and you could ask your question there. Potentially I would do a podcast episode, but I will also probably update the blog post. All right. So moving on to more questions. How long does the audit take with Amazon? So you have 5 business days to submit your information. And again, it's 5 business days. So it doesn't include weekends. And it does give you, a little bit of time, but 5, depending on what you have to do, 5 days may seem like a short amount of time. So the other portion is once you submit it, you have to wait. All right. You basically don't get any information from the auditing team during this process. So I submitted my information, and they give you instructions in the initial email. I submitted my information and I didn't get a confirmation. I didn't get a notification that they were starting the audit. I literally got nothing. So I didn't get anything the next day because I'm thorough and I, in my previous job, had to do a lot of follow-up. And that means you just call up and you ask someone if they're doing their job. All right. So I called up the next day, I think within 24 hours, and I just asked to see if they received what I submitted and, what the next steps were. So they said, yes, we got it, and the audit team is going to be looking at it. And in my head, I was like, all right, they have it. I bet it like gets processed pretty quick. They gave me 5 days. I was thinking maybe they take 5 days. I don't know why I thought that. I don't know why why I thought they were on the same timeline as me, but they're not, and that's okay. They're moving at their own speed. And to be fair, I sent over a lot of information. So several sites that I, had to list as associate accounts or not associate accounts, but sites within my associate account. And then I sent them, probably 1,000 keywords, and I probably sent them 1,000 URLs. I don't think they looked at every single one of them, but there's no way for me to know. I assumed that they would look at every single post, every single letter, and I really combed through everything to make sure I was adhering as best I could to the operating agreement, of course. So after a few days, I think I waited maybe 5 to 7 business days. I called in another time to see if I can get more information. And he the person actually put me on hold for a little while. They checked some things, or at least they left me on hold for a few minutes. I don't know what they were doing over there, but I assumed that they were checking with the audit team just to see if they saw any notes. I don't think they can even see any information, but if they said, yeah, it looks like it's still with the audit team, I don't see any other account information, no other status updates, nothing. Then I asked the next obvious question, which is, how long will it take? Should I expect information like once they finish it? Am I not going to hear anything? How do I know when this ends? So they told me that it could take 7 to 14 days. And I wasn't sure if they were talking about business days or just regular days. But I believe that it's 7 to 14 business days. I didn't get information, any other information, until I think it was like 15 or 16 days afterwards. So it was a good 3 weeks plus before I got information. When I did get the information, it was very brief. It just said, hey, Doug, thanks for submitting the information promptly. We appreciate it. We're glad to have you as an associate. That was kind of the bottom line. No information, no areas where they said, well, maybe you could do this different or anything. Literally, it was just like 2 sentences, no information about what they looked at or did not look at or any tweaks. A lot of people do ask about that as well. Like, hey, do they tell you if there's a violation and what you need to do to fix it? I don't know. In my case, they didn't tell me anything additional. And I have a hunch, I'm not sure, but I have a hunch that if you have a violation, that they probably just discontinue your account. I think they deactivate your account. Again, that didn't happen to me, but I know that if you have a violation, you can't have your account shut off. And I don't think they tell you to fix anything, right? I don't think they come back and say, well, you need to clean off the windshield and spruce it up, and then we'll be good to go, and you can go on your way. I don't think it's anything like that. I don't know why I made up that weird analogy with a car and a dirty windshield. But the point is, I'm pretty sure they audit, and then it's like you passed or you didn't pass. It's a pass-fail situation here. So that's all I know. I didn't get much information. It could be a little bit different. I have no idea. The other thing to pepper in, this is all 100%, by the way, all my commentary. I don't have any official capacity. I should have mentioned that in the beginning. I probably will go back and mention that maybe. But basically, I don't have any official relationship with Amazon, the Associates program, or anything like that, other than just being a member, an affiliate for Amazon. That's it. So if you have any questions about this stuff, you could send them to me, but I'm just some dude off the street. I encourage you to, seek legal counsel, go talk to a lawyer, have them read over the operating agreement if you want 100%, clarity on the operating agreement. And I imagine that even if a lawyer went through it, there's some areas where it's sort of gray. It's a gray area. It's unspecified. And in those cases, and I didn't mention it earlier, but in the cases where it's a gray area, I basically just did the most conservative thing that I could possibly do so that I am clearly within the rules, that there's no question that I am following the operating agreement. All right. Okay. Another common question is, what if I have a lot of things to fix? And, this answer isn't great, but just say fix it. There's certain areas, to my point earlier, there's certain areas which aren't 100% clear, but in most cases, you could figure out the spirit of what the specific rule is and be very well within the lines, so that there's no gray area anymore. You're just clearly doing the right thing. So it's up to you. Some people are more risk tolerant. Maybe they'll roll the dice and see what happens. But for me, A lot of my livelihood is tied to Amazon and being a successful affiliate for Amazon. So I am happy to follow the rules. Some of them seem a little vague, but there's no reason that you can't be, well inside the rules. Another question, which is super common, is can I download images from Amazon and then upload them on my site? Maybe resize them, put graphics on it. This question comes in many forms, but the root of it is, can I download images from Amazon and put them on my site? The answer is no. That is 100% no. You can't download images from Amazon and use them. You need to get the images in I'll say 3 ways. Number 1, you could use the Amazon site stripe. That's typically what I do. So that's number 1, the site stripe. Number 2, you could use the Amazon advertising API or use a tool which utilizes the Amazon advertising API. Those are tools like Easy Azon, Amalinks Pro, and there's a few others out there. I think there's some that merely place images and don't do anything else. So those are the 2 main ways. The other way is to have permission to use images from whoever owns the copyright. So in those cases, it may be like the manufacturer. So you can send an email to the marketing team for the manufacturer or contact the manufacturer however you can and see if you can get permission to use their image. And you can imagine that translates to any, photographer or anyone who has like product images or something like that. So those are the ways. And the main thing, right? So people get a little upset about image usage and they think, oh, why is Amazon creating these rules about using images? I should be able to, do whatever I want with images and blah, 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 blah. But when it comes down to it, it's all about copyright. And I don't know the exact relationship or the rules or the contracts, operating agreement, all that stuff behind the images that Amazon has on its site from the manufacturers or whatever. But I suspect it's all about copyright. And that is fairly clear. They don't want you to, create a site, just do Google image searches and then start, taking images from the internet that you don't have permission to use and put them on your site, right? That could be a bad thing for Amazon, since you are affiliated with Amazon when you are reviewing products and sending people over to Amazon. I believe that is like the root of it all, not Amazon trying to be mean or anything like that. Some people seem to take it personally, and I don't know why. I mean, we have some pretty clear rules to work with. Some of the rules aren't as clear, but this stuff on images is pretty straightforward. All right. And some other questions. What are the most common violations that Amazon associates make? So this is from my own informal observations. I don't keep notes on this. I didn't run a survey. I don't make it a practice to just go out and look at sites to see what they're doing wrong. That actually sounds really boring. But these are the common things that I see when someone hires me for auditing their site. So number 1, topic we're just talking about, downloading images from Amazon and then uploading them to your site. Number 2 is listing the price of products without pulling the data from the Amazon advertising API. Number 3, listing the rating of a product without pulling from the API, listing the number of reviews without pulling from the API, quoting or using content from the user reviews on Amazon or from Amazon. And let's see, next one is number 6, not listing an affiliate disclaimer in a clear way. So, you want to have clear language around that. You don't want to make it too wordy. I typically say something like I do on the podcast. Hey, I'm an affiliate I get a commission if you buy through my link. Plain language, no legal, confusing, phrasing or anything like that. Just the most straightforward way that you can say it. Number 7, having like really poor quality content. That can actually take a few different forms. And, one thing that is kind of fuzzy, and this is purely my opinion, but it's something I have observed, having like all or mostly all affiliate content, having poor grammar, spelling, very short length for content, reused or spun content, and generally just having like inaccurate information. And finally, this is less common, but I have seen this on certain sites where it's inaccurate or at least a misleading type of call to action, like get the best price or save a certain percentage amount or buy now, there's only 2 left or something like that. So that's sort of those are the main areas where I've seen like people potentially have mistakes, especially, I listed them sort of in order. So images and prices, those are kind of areas where people have seen other sites do certain things, and then they interpret that as being okay because other sites are doing it. So last couple questions here. Does Amazon audit all your sites or just one of them? Well, I don't know. My assumption is that they will check everything, and they will check every URL and read every single line. I have no idea what they do, but I was operating in a conservative way because I really wanted to make sure that I passed. Next, does Amazon let you know what they are looking for? So generally, no. They do, however, tell you the 8 pieces of information, which I listed earlier, that they are looking for. But they also refer you in the original email to the operating agreement. And the operating agreement is a fairly lengthy document. It's filled with legal phrasing and jargon and things that maybe aren't super straightforward. So they are looking basically for anything that violates anything in that operating agreement. So they don't tell you specifically, hey, we're looking for X, Y, and Z. Make sure you're not doing any of these things. They tell you, hey, here's our operating agreement. You need to be following the operating agreement, which you agreed to when you signed up, by the way. So that's fairly straightforward. And last question here, where should the Amazon disclaimer be displayed? So to my knowledge, at the time that I'm recording this, it's not explicitly stated by Amazon where to put the disclaimer. However, I believe the rule is there because of FTC, I think Federal Trade Commission guidelines for affiliation and earnings. So my advice to you is to place the disclaimer at the top of your content so that no matter what device a person is viewing, mobile phone, for example, or a tablet or some device we don't even know about yet, like if someone's looking at your content, that they know that there are affiliate links in there and you get a commission. So again, I advise to put it at the top. For years, I just put it in the footer. For years before that, I just had it on a page, and each page in each URL on my site had a link to the disclaimer page, which was linked in the footer. Now I have a disclaimer in the footer. I also have a disclaimer sort of in the top of the content before any sort of review content even begins. Again, I wanted to be 100% inside the rules, like no question that there are affiliate links in there. I just wanted to make sure that there was like no confusion. Now, I know some people are probably thinking, I don't know if I want to put that at the top of my content. It maybe will turn people off. Maybe they won't like my site or something. Well, that is up to you on where you want to put your disclaimer. In my opinion, right, the safest way for me to have handled it was to have that disclaimer in a spot where, regardless of the device, a person was able to see the disclaimer and know that there are Amazon affiliate links within the content. So that was my goal. I know, again, some people have different risk tolerances. Some people have different opinions. Some people want to push the limit, and see what they can do. I do not want to do that. But, if you want to, that's your own opinion. I mean, that's your own approach, and that's fine. Everyone doesn't have to do it my way. So those were the most common questions that I saw. I do encourage you to check out the full blog post if you want to have a look, or if you want to get a hold of those templates. And that is actually located at nichesiteproject.com/audit. And I think it's audit dash. I'm having a hard time finding this on my phone now. I knew this was going to happen. So it's nichesiteproject.com/audit-Amazon-associates. But if you just head over to the blog or just, search for Niche Site Project and Amazon Associate Audit, you should be able to find it. It's fairly straightforward. And I do intend on updating that post. So I actually stated it within the post that I'm making some assumptions here. I think I probably have some pieces of information wrong. I think maybe I'm interpreting certain things in a different way. Maybe someone has more information. So I actually got a few emails sent in that, helped me clarify certain points. I had a couple plugin makers contact me to let me know about certain things that were, correct or incorrect based on my interpretation of what the plugins do and that sort of thing. So again, the whole point is I want it to be like the place to go if someone is being audited, to have a resource to, get through it. Now, the big caveat, I put this in the post as well. If you are audited, don't email me. I can't help you, right? Take a look at all the information there, but the scope of what I do does not include helping someone with an Amazon audit. I have extremely low interest, and frankly, there's probably a lot of liabilities associated with it if I'm working in that capacity. Sure, I can, we could sign agreements and all that stuff, but generally, I don't want to get involved. So my general guideline is around following or being conservative when you interpret the rules and being within the rules, especially during the audit, right? So you have 5 days before you have to submit your information and they begin the audit. So within the 5 days, you can do a lot of work. I had a few things that I needed to tweak. Generally, they were all in the gray area zone. But again, I just wanted to be a very solid rule follower. So if you do have any questions, feedback at doug.show, send them in. Maybe we'll do another segment at some point on the same topic. And thanks for checking out the show. If you're new to it, really appreciate you taking the time to listen today. Thanks. Thank you so much for listening to The Doug Show. I really do appreciate it. I mean, I'm just sitting here on my computer recording stuff, and you're listening to it, and I think that's awesome. If you enjoy the show and you know someone who maybe would be interested in it, please let them know. I think it would be fantastic if you help spread the word. If you are not signed up for the Niche Site Project email list, well, you're in luck. All you have to do is go to nichesiteproject.com, click the green button, enter your name and email address, and I'll send you a bunch of cool stuff about affiliate marketing, productivity, including all my templates. If you happen to not be subscribed to this podcast, please do subscribe, and don't forget, I welcome your questions. So you could send your emails to feedback@doug.show. I got that really cool domain, doug.show. That's it. So feedback@doug.show. Or I'm going to leave my voicemail number in the show notes. So all you have to do is give me a buzz, leave a voicemail, and then I'll potentially put you on the air. So looking forward to it, and we'll catch you next time.